बहुत पापड़ बेले हैं, and this, by the way, is exclusive content. Social was the first co-working cafe in the world at that point.
What's the appeal of
Aditya
that?
Thackeray is a very young and dynamic politician. I don't understand what is legal in the day, how it becomes illegal at night. The nighttime economy of London is 60 billion pounds, and it's massive.
Michelin star restaurants in India, which are none.
Michelin is a commercial enterprise. The most important, I mean, chefs and mixologists have become superstars. India is one of the hardest places in the world to make a menu for. Whenever you get served, please acknowledge and please say thank you.
Hi guys, welcome back to the third episode of Brand Stories, and today we are doing something really different because we are diving into a social chat with our very special guest for today. At Things to Do, our mission has always been to help you discover new ways to elevate your lifestyle. Whether it's finding out a new perfect spot for your dining, or going out to a restaurant, or discovering new experiences in the city, we have always been on the forefront to help you with new ideas and new discoveries, Point, right? Today at Brand Stories, we are here to actually discover a new brand for you. Actually, it's not new, it's very known, it's social. Let's welcome the guest for today and the pioneer behind India's dining scene, Mr. Riaz Amlani. Hi Riaz, welcome to Brand Stories episode 3.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you so
Darling.
much.
And it's my honor that you have considered me for your first season. Thank you.
And I am really looking forward to this conversation.
So am I.
And I'm going to start with you first. Everyone who is in the restaurant business, or in the F&B business, they have their own stories to say. They have their, and they always have their own memories while they're growing up with food, specifically food, I'd say. So at what point did you realize that this is something that I really want to do? Hospitality is something that I want to go ahead with. What piqued your interest in hospitality actually?
गलती से मिस्टेक हो गई. It was I didn't have a grand plan कि मुझे hospitality ही करना है. I was in the entertainment business.
Yeah.
And I was setting up bowling alleys and bumping cars and video game arcades. And what I realized were people needed places to hang out.
Yeah.
So while they were coming to a bowling alley, they were not bowling. They would sit with a cup of coffee and a sandwich and they would talk. So what I realized was people just need places to hang out. So at that point of time, I just created Mocha, which was a coffee shop.
Yeah.
I said, why are we spending so much money on all this bowling equipment when nobody really wants to bowl? All they really want to do is sit down and interact with each other. So that's how it came to be. I didn't have dreams that I will be a hospitality guy. I will join the restaurant business. Galti se aa gaya, and now here we are.
Could you help our audience also know the inception of the brands that you started off and how it's actually started, the journey part?
We started off with a coffee shop called Mocha, and I was in the entertainment business earlier. And what I realized was people didn't have places where they could just hang out and talk to each other. Just मतलब घंटों बैठ के गप्पे मारने हैं तो you can't go to a restaurant. Because restaurant में once your dessert comes means you have to go. But in a coffee shop, you can sit there as long as you want, and you can sit and talk your hearts out. So we started off with Mocha, and I think we got, at that point of time, there were not so many restaurants. And back in 2001, we were fortunate enough to do something completely crazy and against the grain at that point of time. No two pieces of furniture were the same. The kind of offerings we were doing were very different. If I started the same restaurant now, nobody would notice me. But at that point of time, we got lucky, we got noticed. And one thing led to another, and we became a big brand.
So start with Mocha and then
We started with Mocha, and then we had a coffee shop where people could come and have a coffee and a shisha. And
is it the same Mocha or salt water? No.
so we started with Mocha, then we created a fine dining restaurant called Saltwater Grill.
Yeah.
And then we brought that to Delhi as Smokehouse Grill. And then in Pune, it was called Stonewater Grill.
Yeah.
And then we did a lot of different restaurants. We did Prithvi Cafe, Tasting Room, Smokehouse Room. We had a nightclub called Shroom in Mehrauli. So बहुत पापड़ बेले. And then in 2014, we kind of launched Social, which was, for me, it was a kind of a updated Mocha Social. Right? We decided to completely rebrand, and we increased our offerings from just coffee and sandwiches to having a full bar and having different types of food, all at an affordable price. And that was the beginning of Social. It's also a place where you can come and work and open up your laptop and meet like-minded people. So I think Social was at the right time, right place again in about 2014. Since then, we opened up 50 more stores, and we are in 10 cities.
You also have anti-social, social and anti-social as well, right? Now, talk to me about that. Yeah, I mean, it's a really great concept that I have actually come across, because I love the vibe of anti-social in Mumbai at least. I've not been to the Pune one, but Mumbai ka vibe of anti-social is really cool.
Yeah. So anti-social is kind of like a alter ego. Social is a little bit more inclusive. It's about talking to each other and communicating, and it's a little bit more for everyone at any time of the day. Anti-social is very focused. It's you're not coming there for each other. You're coming for the music. So you want you to focus only on the music and not at each other. So that's why it was called anti-social. And in a sense, we get to do more underground, more not very commercial events over there. And it allows us to kind of explore a different side of emerging culture.
Oh, okay. But correct me if I'm wrong. So this basement, Car Social's basement, had anti-social pepper, na?
Absolutely right. We had anti-social right below this.
Right. So right from here,
It started from.
this is a lucky place, I feel.
Yes, actually, the first anti-social
Yeah.
was in Haus Khas on the third floor between the chat and the social.
I have been there.
Yeah, so that was anti-social. It was very interesting because I know that there was another restaurateur who wanted to come up with the name anti-social. And it was a different concept. He wanted to have a kind of a restaurant where the waiters were rude to you, and he wanted to call it anti-social. So to preempt that, I just opened up that room called Painted Anti-Social, and I had a party, and that's how anti-social launched.
Oh, great. Great. Yeah.
This, by the way, is exclusive content.
So restaurants are shutting and opening these days. A lot of people are starting this business, and we see a descendance in the business point of view, where it's also opening and also shutting at that same frequency. How did you manage to actually sustain this business over the last 10, 20 years now? 10 years of just social and 20 years in the business.
Allah Mehban, Gada Pelwan. No, I think I've been blessed to have a very good team. It's a roll of the dice, to be honest. I don't think I have a special skill set or I know something that other people don't. I started my career 22 years ago, and I began, and there were some very fabulous, famous restaurateurs. Unfortunately, one bad decision or COVID or some kind of regulation that comes in and no fault of yours, or the landlord decides to raise the rent, or some officer decides that you don't need a license. There's so many factors, and I think it is just luck of the draw. There are so many quality restaurants that have shut down. If you actually go back and you Google best restaurant of 2010, I can guarantee you 9 out of 10 have shut down. And it is the way, the nature of the business. Times change, things change. Some locations are very sexy, and then after 5 years they stop being sexy. If you go to Delhi, if you remember, at one point of time PVR Market was a very sexy location. Then nobody went there. Now it's been revived. Saket Market was a very sexy location. Now nobody goes there. So it's a phase. So there's so many different factors that come into play.
How has Bombay been like for you ever since?
I've always loved Bombay because I was born here. I mean, it's kind of a birth defect. I enjoy it. But I love every city in India is slightly different, no? And every city has its own magic.
Yep.
And it has its own charm.
Yep.
Bangalore's got great weather. Delhi's got open roads. It's got Lutyens. It's got all these fantastic monuments.
Yes.
Humayun's tomb, Qutub Minar. So, every city has got its own magic and charm. And that's what I love the most about India, that no two cities are the same. Every city is different, and I enjoy going to all these cities, and I enjoy leaving them too.
So tell me something. I mean, if you had, so you opened your, I think the first social in Bangalore first, right?
That's right.
And then,
In Church Street.
yeah, Church Street. And then Delhi, and then Mumbai.
First Mocha was in Church Gate and first social was in Church Street.
God Jesus.
Weirdly, and both of them were ex-restaurants which are called Berries first.
Your father's,
Fathers, and in Church Street also it was called Berries, but it was owned by somebody else. So it was just a weird coincidence that the first restaurant I ever opened was in a restaurant called Berries in Churchgate, and the first social I ever opened was in a restaurant called Berries, but on Church Street in Bangalore.
or when you decide to open up any, outlet of any of your restaurant brands. So how much of a location and a city vibe actually adds to it?
Location is very important. You want to have the right product in the right location. Just having a good location is not enough. You have to have the right concept for that location. So if you're on a high street, then you can't do a very fine dining restaurant over there.
Okay.
If you're on a high street, then something a little bit more QSR or something more fast or more casual will work over there. But if you're in a if you're in a space which is slightly away, and there you open up a QSR, it's not going to do well. So there has to be the right concept at the right place.
So you also have cloud kitchens as well, right?
We have delivery brands, yes, that's right.
And talk to me about those brands, because that has not been, I think explored much from an
Nobody ever
audience.
talks to me about delivery brands. So we have a brand called Aflatun, which does fun North Indian food. We do a really nice dal makhani and butter chicken, superb. We have a brand which we do social, of course, does. We have a brand called Lucknowi, which does incredible kebabs and rolls.
I love the food of Lucknow. It's my go-to place for Mughlai and kebabs.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
yes.
one of my favorite bread. Then we've got Boss Burger, which does Boss style burgers, which you can really get your teeth into. So yeah, it's fun. You enjoy it.
So all these three are there. So there are different reasons, for people to visit restaurants. Like some can host a birthday party, some can do a proposal there, some family gatherings, dates, and a lot of things, right? Then tell me, what is the process to curate an experience for a customer at any of your social outlets that will bring them back a second and a third time and so on?
The secret to bringing people back, I think the first time people come to you is because there's a hype around your restaurant. अरे उसके बारे में बड़ा सुना है, and they come in, and the second time they'll come to you because खाना अच्छा लगा, I'll go back there. But I think if you want the customer to become a regular, they will come for the people, for how the people make them feel, how welcome they felt, what they acknowledge, what they make to feel important. Did they enjoy the human interaction? Because there's so many restaurants and there's so much food out there. You have endless options. So people come back for people. That's the importance.
Cool. So social also offers multiple experiences for different target customers, right? In terms of, it has become a staple for Friday night and a Saturday night scene. It is there. It has always been there. But it's also co-working space for a lot of people who do not know that. So how is the co-working and the food culture evolved in social together? What do you want to talk about that?
It's much more inspiring when you're working in a cafe. You meet very interesting people.
Yeah.
So you meet your founders. So there's so many cases where companies were formed. People met their founders in social. And they started off, and now they've got offices of their own.
Yeah.
And weirdly, we saw this trend where people who had offices also used to come to a social and work from there.
Guilty
I
myself.
think it is. It's just you feel a little bit more inspired. You don't feel like you're cut away from the world. And I think that social was the first co-working cafe in the world at that point. There was no
Yeah.
other restaurant that offered that at that point of time. So yeah, we were definitely the first, and I think it's taken off. You go upstairs now, you'd see
I saw that.
about 50, 60 people working.
So when talking about creative ideas, I saw that Bandra Born is born now. And it's a very good name that you have kept, number one. Number two, it's
You all must come visit.
I will. And second, that it seems very community-driven kind of a place. Talk to me about Bandra Born.
I think Bandra Born is more than me. It belongs to Chef Gresham. Gresham and I have been partners now since 2003, and in my opinion, he's one of the finest chefs in the country. And with Bandra Born, he could really showcase where he grew up, the flavors he grew up eating. So he's kind of evolved this cuisine of Bandra and taken it to the next level.
Yeah.
So it's a really nice place, and in a sense that if you're going to come to Bandra and you want the quintessential Bandra experience, and which is the quintessential Mumbai experience, then Bandra Born is where you got to be.
Bombay is known for its nightlife, right? A lot of places do definitely shut at around 11, 12 max, some 2, some 1. So what do you have to say about bringing back the nightlife culture?
It's unfortunate that we are so tightly regulated, and the 1:30 we have to shut everything down. I don't understand what is legal in the day, how it becomes illegal at night.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think it's there's an overhang of they feel that if you are out all night, you're being immoral. So there's some degree of moral policing, but there's also some concerns around policing and making sure that people are safe, in the city. And I think we are evolving to a space where the government will feel more and more comfortable about opening up. And worldwide, it is seen that that cities that are open till later are actually safer. So I'm very, very hopeful, and we, as part of the Restaurant Association, we keep pushing the government for having extended period of time. Unfortunately, having 1:30 as a deadline has really negatively impacted the club culture of
Yeah.
our cities. Like, if you look at London, the nighttime economy of London is 60 billion pounds, and it's massive. Berlin, for example, the 1/3 of its tourism comes from nightclubs. People go to Germany. 1/3 of the audience that goes to Germany goes to nightclubs. So that is the level of tourism that it can bring in. But it is our job to engage in dialogue with the government, make them understand how important this is for the city's economy, for the economy of the country, and we will keep pushing.
Following up on that, Aditya Thackeray also released a statement that he wants to make BKC operation 24/7. What's your opinion on
Aditya
that?
Thackeray is a very young and dynamic politician. He understands the needs of what the young audience, and he's been a big champion of nighttime, and we completely support his thought process.
Talking about the social media and the techs involved in that, any kind of techs that you are really excited about, or let's say any social media trends that you foresee that you must go and try, and you're really excited about it.
Social media trends are very short term. So I don't worry too much about social media trends. To jump on, yes, it'll get you, it'll get you more eyeballs, but does that really translate into sales? Perhaps, maybe not. But in terms of use of technology, there's a lot of technology that you can use. There are lots of tech, which is you get as SaaS, which is software as a service, that can help you streamline your inventory management. It can streamline your purchases. It can streamline your payroll. Make life a little simpler. So you spend your time doing less clerical work. You still go to Murthal and stop, whether they have a social media
Yes.
page or not. You will still go and stop
A
there.
very good example, a very good and relatable example, I'm sure, for people who know Murthal what it is. Okay, I want to actually touch base on Michelin star restaurants in India, which are none. I know it's not that because there is no guide towards India to getting one. What I've noticed, but if at all, it was there. I mean, what have you thought about it?
Michelin star is not in India simply because it's a commercial decision. I mean, their business is not as big for them to bring in that awards here. So you've got MRF, Apollo Tires. Michelin is a tire,
Yeah.
it's a tire company. And honestly speaking, if you are a very fancy restaurant, you want tourists to come into, because a lot of tourists go to the Michelin guide and decide which restaurant you're going to go to. India, there's no tourism. There's no foreign tourism. So it's not that Michelin will make your life or break your life. And honestly speaking, the Indian food is so complex and has so much depth in it. I don't think somebody you can understand French cooking, but you cannot understand Indian cooking, because in French cooking, you maybe have 5 or 6 ingredients.
So what do you think?
हमारे खाने में तो 50 इंग्रेडिएंट गिरते हैं, और वो बेचारा कंफ्यूज हो जाएगा कि क्या ये फ्लेवर्स है क्या. बट आम अदर्स, आप पेरेंट्स के चेहरे इसमें ये कम है, उसमें वो कम है, दे कैन टेल बाय टेस्ट. वो लोग मतलब they don't have the capability, they don't have as evolved or complex palates that we have. So I would not be worried about what Michelin is thinking about my food. I would not say that There's no restaurant worthy of a Michelin star. There are hundreds of restaurants which are better than any 3 Michelin star abroad. In India right now, there are phenomenal depth of restaurants. They're doing amazing things. There's alchemy. Matlab, you go to a South Indian restaurant, they can do 10,000 things with the rice. And no Michelin star restaurant can do that. Right? So we cannot gauge the quality of our restaurants based on the fact that Michelin is here or is not here. Michelin is a commercial enterprise. They will come when they are ready to come here, but that in no shape or form is the true value of an Indian restaurant.
And how much of importance a chef actually plays in the restaurant business for you as well? I mean, there are a lot of chefs which must contributed over the last 20 years, and they have done some phenomenal job in your own restaurant brands, right? Anything that you would like to talk about in particular for the chef side story of it, in terms of how much they are contributing to the industry, and they are not even, they are they're the unsung heroes, but again, they are not getting that much of popularity.
That's actually a very good question. Of course, a chef brings a certain magic. You say, "Iske haath mein jadoo hai," or the same with the mixologist, right? And yes, they are unsung heroes and they add a lot of value. They say a recipe is just a formula, but the soul comes from the chef. The most important, I mean, chefs and mixologists have become superstars. They have a very valuable contribution, and I think they deserve to be in the spotlight way more than restaurateurs. But having said that, we tend to forget the other superstars, which are the people who bring the food from the kitchen to your table. They are the ones who listen to you they are the ones who customer ki gali wahi khate. If the food doesn't come out, it's the server or the waiter who gets yelled at. If something goes wrong, it's the waiter that gets the brunt of it. So I think the real unsung heroes are the service staff. They don't get enough attention, but hopefully I would like to say is that whenever you get served, please acknowledge and please say thank you. I think it's very important that you acknowledge the fact that somebody is actually bringing food to your table. So those are the real unsung heroes. So yeah, I feel that, yes. And it's really great that chefs are getting the recognition that they truly deserve. And mixologists are getting the recognition that they truly deserve. But I think it takes a full team to give you one great experience.
Any particular chef curated dishes that you would like to recommend for my audience?
Social, our breakfast trays are very popular. Our nachos are the highest selling. Everybody loves our nachos. Our butter chicken biryani is very popular. But again, this is, we do this as skill. Chef Shamshul makes damn good mutton, phenomenal mutton. You must have that.
And where can we get that?
In social, it's called
Socials, okay.
Chakas mutton. You must have that. That's outstanding. Gresham is a very talented chef. You must go to Bannerpon. We have Ali, who works ends the kitchen at Slink and Bardo. The food is fantastic. He takes a lot of inspiration from the Koli community in which Slink and Bardo is served. Then you have Chef Pablo at Mezcalita, who makes fantastic Mexican food. And he's a professor of Aztec food and of the future of Mexican food. So
Wow.
there's a lot of talent everywhere.
So, menu re-engineering happens, right? Every time in the restaurant after 3 to 4, 6 months. And designing a menu is a complete science in itself. How have you gone about it in all of these restaurants that you have, kind of put up? And over the last 20 years, how has that changed? Menu designing and re-engineering of the menu as well.
That's a very good question. And, I'm glad you said menu engineering, because that is a technical term. It is, menus have to be engineered. You have to have something for everyone. India is one of the hardest places in the world to make a menu for.
Why do you say so?
Because we have so many dietary restrictions. Like no other place on earth has as many dietary restrictions as India. So you have a large vegetarian community which needs to be served. Within the vegetarians, you have Jains
Yeah.
who don't eat onion, who don't eat garlic, don't eat root vegetables. So you got to be able to offer something to them. In addition to that, now you're getting gluten allergies and you're getting lactose allergies. So you need to be able to cater to that. And even within the non-veg eating population, there's many different types of non-vegetarian people. some people who don't want to eat bovine, some people don't eat pork, some people have allergies, seafood allergies, shellfish allergies, and some people don't eat pork, don't eat prawns at all, don't eat crab at all. So it's a very complex market. So you'll tend to see Indian menus having a lot more pages than international menus. So internationally, you could have 14, 15 items on a dish and you could get by, but that doesn't work here. You need to have equal options for vegetarians, vegans, Jains, and non-vegetarians alike.
So, how do you extrapolate the future of Impresario and your role in it? And how about coming up with your own initial public offerings, IPOs, and and the areas that you would like to invest in?
Question में 5 question.
Layers.
So Impresario is becoming a large food services company, and inevitably we'll have to go public. We're private equity owned, and we have to be responsible to our stakeholders and shareholders. So going public will maximize value for them, even for our staff and our employees and people who've given the best years of their lives to Impresario. They will all benefit from that. So we're looking forward to that. My effort is always to make myself dispensable, and I honestly only show up for interviews now. All the work is being done by the team. And what is your third question?
10 years from now, Impresario, when I'm seeing that.
10 years from now, I think we would like Impresario to be India's largest food services company. We want to be able to be a kind of a fund dedicated to upcoming restaurateurs who want to talent, want to be able to support them. We want them to learn from our mistakes. We want to help them grow. And we want to build a kind of an umbrella organization which supports the aspirations of up-and-coming talent in the food services business.
Great. And I think that's a wrap, guys. I have got so much of an insight from you and from my audience. Thank you so much, Riyaz. It was lovely talking to you. And that's a wrap, guys. And this was episode 3 with Riyaz on Brand Stories. And that's a wrap on today's episode. Hope you enjoyed diving into the conversations with Riyaz Amlani on the food, culture, leisure, and so much of creativity that he has brought in India. If you have been inspired by the fusion of food, culture, and innovation that we talked about today, be sure to visit his iconic spots like Social, Anti-Social, Smokehouse Delhi, Bandra Bon, and so many more. So do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe to get into some more content like this. And stay tuned for the next episode at Things to Do. We will be back with another story, another brand, and another guest for the next episode. Stay tuned. Bye.